really believes in the people behind the music. He's not really on that money business thing. If he likes something, he just put it out. He doesn't care about what's happening. And it gives you a good feeling because you can trust yourself as well as an artist.
Renat's not frightened of putting out completely strange things. Even if he thinks they're only going to sell 500 or something, he'll put it out if he likes it. And most labels don't think like that. They put out certainties, or, you know. I think that's why it works. He's always looking for fresh things, and he finds them.
For me, I'm an individual. I want to work with individuals, and that's all I can say. You know, I want to do something out of my own person, out of my own heart. It's my heart that's going to talk, and nothing else. It's not the business. It's you know, it's the whole madness about it, which I like.
Have really had lots of very good reactions. People saying, well, yeah, you can really bend the airwaves and do something really nice with dance music in its whole variety.
People would say perhaps it's faceless, but it's not true. People respect the music you make, not how you look like.
I don't really do that many interviews or, you know, photographs and stuff like that. I mean, I just like doing the music really.
The whole world comes together in one. That's RNS, that's what it's all about.
A lot of people think that technology and emotions are things that exclude each other, but we don't think that's true.
Techno music can be very emotional, very passionate, very soulful, very powerful. As long as we're gonna confront, or how can you say that, compare rock and roll, jazz and
Evolutionism, which is a new style of art, in that it enables me to evolve complex structures that look like plants and sea anemone and kind of octopi structures, using a mixture of sort of genetic evolution and geometry stolen from the natural world. So the role of the artist is not to sit at an eagle painting with a paintbrush or sculpting in stone. His role or her role is to be like a gardener, evolving and breeding structures. The initial software I in effect design. I work with a programmer who does that coding. But essentially one is defining the rules for life in software. Then having created those rules that are man-made, one uses that to generate an entire virtual universe. Having created these genetic structures that you can mutate and breed, there's similarities to the way DNA and the mechanisms of evolution in the natural world work. And having started mutating them, like genetic engineers, I can take sequences of genes and cut them out of one virtual form and then splice them into another. So I can misuse the evolutionary process that I've just created, if you like. In the natural world, one has survival of the fittest. In my world, this computer world, one has survival of the most aesthetic. Forms that I find most interesting survive to then breed and live for another day. I describe my forms as artificial life, with the word art in quotes. So, in effect, these things are living and they are breeding, but they are artificial in that they're being generated from software that's a human created. In the history of computer graphics, one has fractals and chaos, and out of fractals and chaos has grown artificial life. So artificial life embodies quite a lot of the ideas of chaos, but takes them to another dimension. But I think there is a new category of art now, which is computer art, and I think it's now the history of computer art is being written. that one is starting to have proper discussion about what it is. I think the difficulty is where computer art meets leisure and entertainment. There is a danger of the computer art and the innovation being slightly contaminated by the pressures of commercialism. I think the whole conflict in 20th century art is that really the art form of this era is cinema and film. And I think modern art, postmodernism, is becoming increasingly recursive and closeted. And I think computer art is an attempt to find a foothold between the world of cinema.
DJs and live acts, the ravers were taken on a sweaty tribal trip.
Tribal gathering, where does the name come from and what is it all about?
Well, it stems from what I was saying, in that we like to attract all sort of strands of humankind, or the dancing. There is an element of tribalism about this whole movement. It is very much a global culture, a big world tribe. We're just attempting to become like the global catalyst for the whole thing.
Usually the big universe raves are all outside, and this is like quite inside because you're inside the airport. At the moment, all the raves in Germany are usually based into one kind of music, like one big room and 10 DJs, and they all play the same stuff. The good thing about Universe here is like the German people will get a garage room, a gabba room, and a techno room, and then they get an ambient room. You know, they're going to get like a lot of very, very different stuff.
What's your favorite planet here?
Planet Erotica.
Ambient world. I'm all dizzy, but I had a great time. So that's it from